Hello, everyone, and welcome. Picture this 5,000 men, and that's only counting the men, adding women and children. And you are looking at 15, maybe 20,000 people, all hungry, all waiting. The disciples run the numbers 5 small loaves, 2 small fish, a child's lunch. Their conclusion: this is not enough, send them away. But Jesus didn't send them away. He didn't rush. He didn't react. He gave thanks. And in his hands, what was not enough became abundance. This is John 6, verse 10 through 12. And the miracle here is deeper than multiplication. Let's look at what actually happened. John 6, 10 to 12. Let's read it together. Then Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." Three verses, that's it. But within these verses are four movements that reshape how we see what we are holding right now. Because this miracle isn't only about bread. It's about trust. It's about surrender. It's about the stewardship. And it's about a God who wastes nothing. Let's work through it. 1. Order before the miracle. The first thing Jesus does is unexpected. He does not multiply the bread. He tells the crowd to sit down. Sit. Before anything supernatural happens, he creates order. Chaos is not the atmosphere of this miracle. Trust is. And John adds a quiet detail. There was much grass in the place. They are in the wilderness, but it is not a barren ground. There is grass. Before the bread multiplies, before the hunger is satisfied, there's already a place prepared for rest. The miracle had not begun, but the provision had. Sometimes God prepares the ground long before he changes the circumstances. And sometimes the first act of faith is not striving, it is sitting down. 2. Gratitude as a posture, not a transaction. Verse 11 says, Jesus took the loaves and gave thanks. 5 loaves, 2 fish, thousands to feed. And he gave thanks. A first century Jewish rabbi did not simply ask for a blessing on the food. He blessed the source of the food. Most likely, Jesus recited the ancient Hamozi, the traditional prayer prayed over bread in Jewish homes for centuries. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Let that settle in. The one who would soon say, "I'm the bread of life," stands holding a child's lunch and blesses the Father for bringing bread from the earth. He honors the source before revealing his power. This is not a formula. It is not a transaction. It is trust. He holds what appears insufficient and treats it as enough in his Father's hands. And that is the invitation, not thank God so he will multiply it, but trust him enough to give thanks before you see what he will do. 3. Total satisfaction. Look carefully at the language. They did not receive portions. They ate as much as they wanted. And then they were filled. The Greek word suggests complete satisfaction, like animals grazing in a field until there's no hunger left. This was not crowd management, it was abundance. God did not ration grace that day. Everyone ate until they wanted no more. And here's this carefully. Whatever lack you are facing, financial, emotional, relational, the God revealed in this miracle is not a God of barely enough. When He feeds, He satisfies. Not always on your timeline, not always in the way you expect, but fully, because this was never only about bread. This was about the kind of Savior who does not leave empty places empty. 4. Nothing is wasted. Then comes the detail we often rush past. After thousands have eaten their fill, Jesus says, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." This is the same Jesus who just created abundance, and yet He gathers the fragments, 12 baskets full, one for each disciple. The one who said, "This is not enough," are now holding what remains. God is extravagant, but never careless. He multiplies, He satisfies, He gathers. He honors every piece of what He provides, and this means something deeply personal. The broken pieces of your story, the season that felt wasted, the effort that went unseen, the prayers that seem unanswered. Nothing is lost. Not your obedience, not your tears, not your offering, not your faith. In His hand, even the fragments have purpose. So what do we do with this? First, stop keeping your distance from what feels small. Often we hesitate to step forward or to serve because what we have seems insignificant. But in the wilderness, notice the contrast. The disciples looked at the resource and concluded it is not enough. Jesus looked at those same resources and gave thanks. The difference was not the quantity of the bread, it was the posture towards the source. If you have been holding back your talents, your finances, or your time because they seem too little, consider this invitation. Lay aside the constant calculations. Place what you have into His hands. Second, create space to receive. Jesus did not pour out blessing into chaos. He said, "Make the people sit down." Before the bread was multiplied, there was stillness. If your life is so hurried, so anxious, that you might not recognize provision even if it appeared, take this seriously. Stillness is not laziness, it is preparation. It is only when you sit down in the wilderness that you are positioned to receive the bread from heaven. Third, honor your fragments. Do not despise the leftovers of a difficult season, whether they are the fragments of a broken relationship, a dream that stalled, or a chapter of life that did not unfold as you hoped. Do not discard them. Bring those fragments to Jesus. Remember, the 12 baskets of abundance began as what others might have called scraps. God wastes nothing. He can take what remains and fold it into what comes next. With Him, nothing is wasted. Not your pain, not your small beginnings, nor the parts of your life that feel insignificant. He stood in a field holding what seemed insufficient and blessed the Father before the miracle appeared. And He can do the same with what you are holding. In His hands, what feels insufficient becomes abundance. If God has ever taken something small in your life and done something you could not explain, I would love to hear about it in the comments. And if this encourages you, share it with someone who needs to remember that what they place in his hands is never too small. Thanks for watching. I will see you in next one.